So I'm like, this is not a glute show. As we know in open bodybuilding today, most open bodybuilders don't have straight glutes, but they're blasting full, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, dude,
Wow.
before 1 p.m. I definitely am not a huge advocate of a trend pusher at all. I like to keep that very, very low as possible, or until that threshold where there's side effects that are prevalent, right?
Yeah.
Clen, I keep it very low. Teeth.
All right, and we're live here at 1D Talks. So special guest, Chris Tuttle from Tuttle Nutrition. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Really excited to have you on. I think it's going to be a nice treat for our audience. And then we, as always, have my co-host, Mr. Justin Harris. So be awesome to have some coaching talk, some nutrition, performance, your training. I know we had Jordan on not too long ago, and his show just wrapped up pretty recent here. So that'd be kind of cool to unpack that a little more. But yeah, thanks again. I know you're busy, got a lot going on, and thanks for joining the episode tonight.
Not a problem. I love talking about nutrition. That's one thing. It's a good break from the general staring in front of the computer all day long and, doing updated emails. Sometimes to break up the podcast a little bit and talk about nutrition is good.
Yeah, there you go. What do you think? Like, what started you with all that? I mean, obviously you're, studied it formally and doing it your entire adult life now. So like, what kind of got you going?
Yeah, without going into like a ginormous story, it all started. I raced motocross. I raced motocross professionally for a very short time, and on the way to earning that status, I had a coach that taught me how to eat at a young age, 12 years old. Basically macro-based meals, healthy whole foods, 4 meals a day. Nothing like to a bodybuilding diet, but teaching a kid how to eat right? Instead of waking up eating Raisin Bran and orange juice and out the door, it's like no eggs, whole grain toast, some peanut butter, fruit, etc. And I remember seeing a distinct difference in how I felt and performed on the bike, which gave me a general understanding of nutrition and what nutrition could offer me. Later, he obviously had me weight train for motocross. It was more like a CrossFit style workout. My body responded to it. And then people noticed at school. They're like, dude, you look jacked. I'm like, am I? Am I? Like, I didn't know it was a thing. And then, so then I picked up bodybuilding magazines at that point. I'm like, well, how can I make this more? And then motocross coach at the time was like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't be lifting weights in motocross. Like, it doesn't work that way. It's like being a sumo wrestler and trying to run a marathon, like you gotta be small, you gotta be light and repetitive. So I kind of put that in the back burner for a long time. As far as school goes, I always liked exercise, trying to think about something I could do. When you're young, you're like trying to find something to do that you like. And I'm like, well, I love exercise. It'd be cool to like, be a strength coach or something. So I initially wanted to be a strength coach. And then halfway through, I decided that I like nutrition better. I felt that nutrition changed people faster with even a mediocre training program versus like a shit diet and then like a good training program. So I changed my major to being a dietitian. But during that time, I did start bodybuilding once I finished racing motocross. And how my business all started, and it was never on purpose, was just I had somebody help me do a show with my sister's ex-boyfriend for a prep, and I didn't do very well. And then I picked up all Chris Aceto's books, read them all, and then did my own prep that following year. And I came on stage like 16 pounds heavier in better shape, and I won my class, and I did drastic ground, and people in my gym noticed that. And some dude walked over to me and he goes, "Hey man, I'm so-and-so. You look great this year. What did you do differently from last year?" I'm like, "Oh, I read these books. So you can have them if you want." And he goes, "No, I was wondering if I could pay you to help me." And like, back in our day when we had more of like, we know where we stood, I was like, bro, I don't know what I'm doing. Like today, day and age, you get some people on show and they're a coach. But I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing. And he goes, I'm like, I can't help you. He's like, no, you do. You can help me. I'm like, I can't. And he's like, dude, just please help me. And I'm like, fine, give me $50. And he gave me $50 and I helped him, and he did well that following year. His buddy goes, what did you do? He's like, oh, this guy at the gym helped me. And then that's how it started. I never advertised. It was just word of mouth. It was just like, great, I get extra side money while I'm in college right now, right?
Right.
A few bucks here and there to help pay for food and bodybuilding stuff. And all that. And then over through the course of me competing and in college, I started to build more and more clients. And then I started to, for some reason, weird enough, because I wasn't natural at the time, I helped a lot of natural guys compete locally. And I remember one show I had, coincidentally, I had 6 people in the overall together in every weight class.
That's awesome.
And then 3 of them, two of them got their pro card. And then after that, I had tons of natural bodybuilders reach out to me to help them. Because I believe at that time, us unnatural guys had a little greater standard of condition than the natural guys at the current time. And we're going back to 2007. So like, I just kept dieting them till they're leaner, like they weren't used to pushing that hard. And then all of a sudden they're doing well at the natural shows. And then people at the gym started being like, hey, I don't want to do a show, but can you help me lose body fat? Years down the line, it just progressed and progressed and progressed till eventually, after me becoming an RD, getting my master's and working in a hospital, I looked at my wife at the time, my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, I'm making twice the amount of money with my coaching business than I am as a dietitian full time. Like, I think I'm going to cut the cord.
Yeah.
And then I ended up cutting the cord and becoming a full-time coach. And then my wife, now girlfriend, then quit her job and started helping me. And then she's my wife now. And here we are.
That's hilarious, because that almost word for word down to the Chris Aceto books, the Help Someone with the Gym. The only thing different for me would have been, instead of a dietitian, it was exercise physiologist at the hospital. But that was like identical to my story. That's hilarious. Even like saying, I'm making twice as much coaching. Why am I still here? It's funny hearing that. But yeah, that's almost the exact same path my whole thing evolved to.
Wasn't it hard to let go at first? You're like, I'm not sure.
So hard. I did it twice. Because I worked at the hospital. I was exercise physiologist. I did echocardiograms, and then I went back to grad school for physics. And then after that, I worked as an engineer for about 5 years, and I went through the same process again, because when I was in grad school, I kind of really wasn't coaching, and I didn't think people would remember me. It'd been several years, and I started coaching again in the same path. And this time it was like, man, I'm making more than twice as much as I'm as an engineer. But it's like, I make great money as an engineer, the health benefits, 401k. It's like, and I had a great job. I was a lead test and controls engineer, no complete autonomy. I worked at 2 different plants. I had projects, but my projects were like year-long projects, and as long as they were completed by the end of the year, it was no one tracked me. And so it was like an incredible job. The main campus I worked at was 6 miles from my house, but it was, it's hard, because you think, even though you're like, man, I'm only doing this part-time a couple hours a day and it's making twice as much. What if I did this 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day? But then you think, like, of course it's going to make more money, but there's no way it's going to make all that I'm taking away from my regular job, right out of the gate. So we're going to take an income drop. But both times I thought that, and both times I didn't. It's once you're able to, put all your efforts to it all day, it just takes off.
Yeah, especially because that, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to work my ass off now.
Oh yeah, you got panic mode. Yeah, because you're like, you only get like you only get so many. Just trust me, to your wife or your girlfriend. You get, if one of them fails, that's the last one you get. And so you get like, let me, I know I got a great gig, health benefits and everything. It's great, but just trust me, I'm going to just lay it all on the line and go for broke. So. But you panic, and so you just grind.
What's funny about that is, and a lot of people who have their own business know, working for yourself 60 hours a week is like equivalent to working for somebody else 30 hours a week, right? It's like, it's you have a different mentality where you look at the clock, you're like, I'm gonna try to be done by 8.
Well, that's why I was late for this. I was still answering emails. I didn't even realize what time it was until I saw Joe's his email pop up with the link. No, I always joke. It's like, start a business when you're willing to, so you can work 80 hours a week to avoid working 40 hours a week.
100%.
Well, it's
100%.
I was gonna say, it's funny you mentioned Chris Aceto, because I had books, because I had the Everything You Need to Know About Fat Loss, I believe was the one Chris Aceto book, and then there was the Bodybuilding, I think it was Q&A or something.
Yes.
Yeah. So I had both of those. So yeah, that was the early 2000s. Yeah, when I read those, but that was a little bit, a lot healthier than the 1996 Dan Duchesne Body Opus book that I read in high school, because I don't think a high school kid should be reading that book, but I may or may not have like got pretty
It
freaky
was so
shredded,
hard to
borderline
find.
unhealthy.
There
was some
it was
good
hard
content.
to find stuff. There weren't books, there weren't the internet was around, but I mean by mid 2000s it was more, but like when I was doing it was like real early 2000s or late 90s. There wasn't anything. You could find a college textbook on nutritional science or something, but there wasn't anything.
Nothing.
I remember pouring through Fred Hatfield's books, which were just so dense, and like they were like written to a graduate student basically, and I'm 15 years old or whatever, 18, trying to, but there just wasn't anything out there.
And not to mention, at that time, like, back in 2004, 2005, all that era, we tended to be held victim to who's available in our own gym, right? It's like when I first started competing, I went to the front desk and I said, hey, like, I want to compete in bodybuilding. Is there anybody in here that you know of that competes? And they're like, well, so-and-so used to compete. I'm like, great, I'll go talk to him.
Right.
Hey, I have a question. Oh, sorry, I can't help you, but you go talk to him. And then finding somebody that could help me. And, I didn't get the best advice, but like I did whatever I could to find the best advice of the resources I had. And then the more time you're in it, then you meet more and more people.
I always think that's really the best approach. And bodybuilding back then, everything was just so not advanced or technical. I bought my first posing trunks from Jaguar, putting cash in an envelope and mailing it to them. They didn't even have a website. There would be pamphlets up at gyms, and you'd like
hope, Western Union.
you hope like posing suit comes eventually. But I think I always equate it to like like if you ever hear like famous guitarists, I think you can see one of my guitars in the background. They never train musically, like a Stevie Ray Vaughan. They don't read music, and they just learn it themselves. And even more so, they learned it at a time when like there were records, and so they'd have to like scroll back on the record and put the needle down and hope to find, and play by ear and figure it out. And it's, like the way we have it now with the internet and everything, it's just so immediate and easy access. But I think that's almost a detriment. I try not to get on a rant here, but it's almost a detriment because when it's harder to get the information, you don't get so much. So what you do get, you pour over multiple times and completely analyze it and, turn it into your own information. When it's just thrown at you, it's just all this information everywhere, When you have to really work for it, you appreciate it more. And I think like, not to get completely off topic, but I think that'll be a big problem because I think at some point, especially with AI going where it is, we're going to have universal basic income, or we're just going to have 67% of GDP is service industry. When robots can do that, that's 2/3 of the economy they're not employable anymore. But so you think like, universal basic income, you got all this time to do whatever you want, you can be the next Mozart and stuff. And it's like, no, it never works that way. If you don't have the hardship, like you don't value it enough.
When we have universal income in this country, suicide and depression is going to go through the roof.
Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. Because we're just not built for that. We haven't evolved from you wake up, hey, I made it through the night. This is the best day ever. Oh, I'm hungry. Hey, I found an animal to kill. This is the best day ever. Now, hey, I found a cave to sleep in. This is the best day ever. We don't have like what makes us happy. We don't know that. We're still like built on, I have a basic need. When I meet that need, it's great. When all those needs are automatically.
Uh-oh, he froze.
Yeah, he froze in my thing. He'll come back around. This happens to me sometimes too with my podcast, and all of a sudden he'll jump back in.
Yeah, just pick up and there's the speed talk, right? This usually StreamYard will catch it, but there you are, Justin.
I think they booted me. Even StreamYard was like, shut this guy up.
No, but you're right though. Like as humans, we need to be challenged. We need adversity. And we need purpose, and we need that. If we don't have that, ultimately people are just going to commit suicide, be depressed, be permanently medicated.
Yeah, I mean, for any person who excels in any field and anything, they always have their overcome story. You know, they have their hardship story, the stuff that they had to work through. You know, we think of it, we think like everyone at the top has the story of, oh yeah, my dad just handed me everything, but that's not the case at all. Even with money, 70% of million, or these numbers might be reversed. 70% of millionaires are self-made first-generation millionaires, and 90% of those will have lost all the family wealth by the third generation. Because when it's handed to you, when it's easy, you don't value it. So there's very few multi-generational wealth. It's almost all, you know, like an Elon Musk would be maybe second generation. His father had some money, but like his kids probably are already are going to blow it all. You know, it's just like that's just how it works. The first person works hard. The next generation, you know, has it easy, and then the next generation never knows anything but easy, and they just ruin it.
I will say too, like, because, you know, you started bodybuilding before me. I did enjoy bodybuilding more in the beginning. I actually really enjoyed it up until about 2014. And then
it's almost the same. It's same story again.
Yeah. And then it started to kind of take a sharp decline. It was really fun. Only, you know, people in the gym only knowing that you're competing, you know, and then you're going to the show. You have no idea who's going to be there.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I saw that guy last year here too, you know? And then, you know, back in the day though, nobody was really friendly at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I hated that about bodybuilding. It feels like it's a little bit better now. I think because the UK is very friendly, and I don't know if that's like kind of carrying over more, or the social media aspect, and maybe that's one benefit of social media. But yeah, it was very different. I remember my culture shock was, you know, you do like the Mr. Michigan, the state show, and like all the guys from the gym are rooting you on. Your family's in the audience. You know half the guys on stage from your gym. It's all fun and, you know, exciting. And you think this sport's great. And I remember doing my first national show, and the first guy I talked to, he starts telling me, he's like, man, my bitch wife, she divorced me at 4 weeks out. You believe that shit? 4 weeks out of my contest, she's gonna throw that on me. And I'm like, dude, you just threw away a marriage for this? You know, like you're not gonna take top 15. And the next guy I talked to told me how he spent, I can't remember if it was 15,000 or 30,000, but as a young kid at the time, it sounded like $1 million spent on gear for the contest. And the same thing, he was no chance at turning pro. And I was just like, wow, this next level is a different beast than like my fun, you know, doing the state show with my buddies. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny about being unfriendly. Like, you're right. Social media has kind of brought people together for sure. You know, like, you know, I mean, we would be never having this conversation, you know, if we wouldn't know who anybody is. It would also be like word of mouth. And there is its positives, but I still enjoy it more when people competed just for them, and not for recognition. Because let's be honest, not to be negative, but I mean, it is true. 50% of people competing now wouldn't be competing if there wasn't any social media.
No, you even see it. I mean, like you can go to the gym and you can watch the people film their workouts. And I've even caught myself, like I've noticed this with myself, if I'm ever filming sets, I'll catch myself thinking like, well, I'm going to film the next set. Let me leave something in the tank this set, you know? And then I'm like, no, what am I, you know, no, that's not what I do any of this for, you know, like I'll do what I get on the set, but I'm not gonna hold back just for the camera. But you like, it's a weird, because when you're just in the gym for yourself, that thought isn't a thought, you know, when you're just competing for yourself, that's your only thought is doing the best you can for the contest, not what your check-in pictures are going to look like on Instagram, or what your post is going to say, whether you won or lost, you know, who you're going to thank and who you're going to hashtag thank, you know, and in the comments.
I'm still not, I've never been able to get into that completely. When I was sponsored by Animal and I had to do these obligations, it was so weird to me. And they're like, oh, you got to do this. And I'm like, post 2 stories a week? I was like, that is insane. And then I look at some people, they're posting like 2 stories every day. And
my kid, like you see the kids with Snapchat, they'll do hundreds a day. They don't even matter anymore. They just like press the button and take random pictures of the world so they can keep their snap streak going with. And like it's just a weird, like it's a whole, because I think our generation, we're the last where the internet wasn't real, you know. I like when people troll in the comments. So if anyone's listening, you want to make fun of like my terrible camera color right now, or the sweat billowing off my face because it's 100 degrees in Michigan, make fun of me, see how good you can with the comments, because to me it's not real. But like my kids and stuff that grew up with the internet, it is different, because that's their real world. Like, you know, to me, Instagram is some silly thing that I have to post on for business or that I get to goof around on when I'm bored. For them, that's their social world. Maybe not Instagram, what Snapchat or whatever the kids are using now, but it's a very weird, it's a different, like we have a just totally different view of the world from the younger generation.
Yeah, I can't get on board with it. I can't.
It's hard. I can't either. I don't want to be that old guy who just lets technology pass him by, because I feel like that's just the world eventually just passes you by.
Oh, dude, it's going to happen to both of us. It's gonna happen to
I know,
all
but
of
I want to delay it as much because I feel like that's the first step of dying, really. You know, like I don't want to ever be because you know, like the world is cooler and more exciting today than it was 100 years ago or 200 years ago, and that's because of technology. You know, and just because it's like hard for me to learn it because it's not my world anymore. I don't want to just completely poo-poo every new thing, but it is hard to keep up with it because I can't do the Snapchat. I don't know how it works. I can't figure it out. I probably would help the business, but I already, like I say, I don't want to do it, and here I am doing it.
Well, just kind of just transition back to some of the nutrition part. I mean, I think just kind of high level, I'll show people this out there too, because I know probably a lot of our viewers would imagine know a lot about you from the bodybuilding side, but I think this kind of cool from your site, just overall, like, you and your wife working together and just kind of the wide range of things. I'm just that you guys have some background in. I'm just curious, do you find that working in like the medical field in dietetics, has that helped you more with like general population than say bodybuilding clients, or is that something that, how does that kind of cross over for you?
When people ask me that, and I do get asked that a lot, I can say that learning what I learned, my master's program in nutrition, my internship, and my undergrad doesn't have anything to do with getting a bodybuilder in shape, right?
Mm-hmm.
For a contest prep. It just doesn't. However, education and going through studies, understanding p-values, how to read things, people pick things out of an abstract. I'm like, oh, this is what the study says. I'm like, that's not what the study says. So being well-versed in that has made me not so gullible to trends that are constantly changing within the industry, right?
Yeah.
Where there's always this next best thing. And I'm like, is it though? And then you kind of look at it a little more closely and it's like, no, it's not, or I have my clients will send me an article written about fish oil increasing prostate cancer of old men. I'm like, what? And then as soon as you start looking more into it, you're like, that's not what the study said. This bonehead who wrote the article totally took out of context. Education's helped me in that standpoint. It's also helped me. I believe that, I guess taking a more, what's the word for it? Taking the right approach with people. A lot of people in the industry who don't have a lot of education or experience kind of throw the kitchen sink at everything, at everybody. Yeah. It doesn't mean bodybuilding drugs. It just means like you want weight loss. Okay, we're going to do this for cardio, this low carbs, and we're going to take all these supplements when it's not appropriate, right?
Right.
You take what you need to do for the individual and the individual purpose. But of course, it's not intimidating for me to help type 1 diabetics with insulin.
Sure.
Like before, if somebody doesn't have that type of understanding of how to help somebody with an insulin pump, like they don't understand it. I understand it. I spent a lot of time in the ICU doing TPN bags and all that. So I have a good general understanding. And of course, lab work. Like I had a very good understanding of lab work way before, lab work became the talk of the town in bodybuilding now,
Right.
And then of course I have the most ultimate resource of all time. My father was a physician. So I can't even tell you how many times I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, what does this mean? Like how do these numbers coincide with each other? And he's a really smart individual. My dad went to Harvard. I'm always like, Dad, what happened to me? So he'll explain to me things in, layman's terms to kind of understand the grasp, the cause and effect. So it's been great in that aspect. But no, I would say the biggest resources ultimately is, it's everything, education, experience, and then obviously all the hundreds of thousands of questions I've asked my dad over the years.
No, I think it's a great point. I know Justin's going to comment on studies, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He's had a few rants recently.
Yeah, we got to have you on more often because you're basically you gave my life story, and then now you're going on my study rant. We talk about that all the time. No one reads the studies. It's like one of my favorite sayings. No one knows how to. And like you just said, reads the abstract. And I go on a rant probably 9 out of 10 podcasts about this, It's not that hard to learn to read. They always give the data in like, milligrams per kilogram, which is, like if you get a number or a dose or anything, and that can be kind of confusing because it's like, how do I convert it? And I say, you can get a rough estimation by just saying most men are about 100 kilograms. So just multiply whatever that number is by 100. If we gave test subject A 2.4 milligrams per kilogram, you gave them about 240 milligrams, and so that gets you through that section. And then the graphs make more sense to you. And it's, but no one takes the time to learn how to read a study or read a study.
No, and people also don't understand their own confirmation bias, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're in Google and you're like, keto diet's healthy, oh, you're going to type in benefits of a keto diet. Well, of course, you're going to get every article that says keto diet's beneficial, right?
Right.
But yeah, 100% with the studies, and just because a study's conclusion might be, hey, there's association with this, people go, oh, it causes that.
Right.
There's so much to studies, and as you guys know, and the best I can't remember, either Lane Norton said this, somebody said this. It's basically saying, what's your stance on this? Well, at this current time, research state this. So this is where I'm at. It could change tomorrow, could change in a week.
And then people, so they say, so that's what you believe? And it's like, no, it's not that I believe that. This is what the study says. That's this is the science. I'm just telling you what the current science is.
Correct. Yeah. People want definite answers. That's a problem.
Yeah.
You're not teaching like a, philosophy class, right? About what you believe and what you think. Yeah. It's more like this.
It doesn't matter what I believe, and that's the beauty of science. It doesn't matter where I went to school, how smart I am, how elegant my theory is. If it's not verified by experiment, it's wrong.
It's like, you ever heard this too? It's like how you know if a health professional or somebody is well-versed is when you ask them a question about a topic. If they come back with a direct answer, they don't know what they're talking about. If they come back with you with multiple questions, then you probably know that he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, no, good point. So with just to touch on the coaching as well, because you have your wife and yourself on her, do the two of you work with like ever the same client, or does she kind of have her own lane and what she specializes in, and then what you do mainly?
Yeah, I have no idea who she has. Never have. Yeah. It's always been separate. I've always been, when she first came on, she was mainly helping me stay organized with finances because I wasn't good at that. My wife's like, do you know you have $13,000 pending payments for you? And I'm like, I had no idea. She organized all that in the books and etc. And then eventually I taught her a lot with nutrition. She took some nutrition courses, some certifications, and then she started help some general weight loss. And then over the years, she became a little more well-versed and then started helping competitors and etc. And then she does less competitors now, general weight loss, and she started an investment business, Tuttle Equity. It's like investing in apartment complexes and things like that to help more of our money work for us instead of having a bunch of money in the bank.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's once again, I got ETI Capital.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I was looking at your coach's page. We were kind of talking about this before too, just to, if we could.
I'll tell you this, dude, I'm terrible at keeping things updated and I'm terrible at marketing.
It's all good.
Yeah. Same, yeah.
Well, I can still find pictures sometimes. So I dug this one up. So just Jordan Hutchinson. So, because this was his pro debut, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and it was what, 5th at the Texas Pro?
Yep.
Yeah. And I watched a lot of his progress after we had him on the podcast. Great guy, and just kind of was like, rooting for him as he was kind of going through that prep, and then put 2 and 2 together. And early on that you were coaching him. So, just curious to any insights or feedback on how the prep went and how you guys approached it.
The prep went really well. Jordan, I trust him to follow everything 100%. And you know how, like, when you build a coach-client relationship, you start to learn and understand what to ask that individual to get the correct feedback, right? Because you might ask a client, hey, man, are you fatigued? And they're like, dude, I feel great, feel fine. But they're not fine, right? Yeah. Where it's like I've learned and he's learned to communicate with me to get me to know the information that I need. So I know what appropriate changes to make, because some people forget that, right? We can look at pictures and answer questions from a client chart to get feedback to make change, but if they're not giving us the right feedback, sometimes we can make a mistake.
Right.
So ultimately, yep.
Sorry. And the best bodybuilders are the kind of the worst for that, because they're willing to kill themselves, you know? And so, you know, if you ask them if they're fatigued, they are, but they think like, no, coach, I can grind through anything. You know, I'll make it, you know, whatever you, it's like, no, I know you'll suffer through anything. That's the problem. We need to have you suffer through the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're like the really good clients are a lot of times the hardest, because they will work themselves to the ground.
Justin, what I've learned to do with that is how I word it. I go, how has your fatigue changed over the last 72 hours? Right.
Smart.
That way it's not measuring that ego or that ability to push. Are you more or less fatigued, you know, to get an idea, because you look fatigued as shit, you know?
Yeah. It's funny how you learn how, like, you refine those things over the years, you know, because it's the same thing, like just with anything, it's always crazy to me how I'll have the way I respond to certain things, you know, like kind of things that get asked all the time. And you'll be 5 years into giving this basic like approach to responding, and then someone will misinterpret it, you know, and then you're like, oh my God, how many people did someone else, you know, and you have to like relearn how to word it and stuff. And I have a whole folder full of things like, you know, organized, like questions that come up often that are very easily misinterpreted, especially by someone in contest prep, you know, when their brain's all wonky. And I'll refine that all the time, and until they're finally, like after 20 years, just, you know, like so crisp and not a wasted word. And I know that my point's going to get across properly.
Yes,
I've seen that over time. Yeah,
100%. But no, Jordan's prep went really smooth. I mean, way smoother, because I learned him. I kind of started where I needed to start. I knew how to push, but ultimately, which is incredible, is we managed his fatigue so freaking well that, like, I mean, at the end of the last like 5 weeks, we're doing like 15, 20 minutes of cardio. Like we never, I think we never went above 35 minutes of cardio. And then mainly did some step counts around 9K a day. His food never got low. His refeeds were relatively aggressive, progressively aggressive. So like as the ball's rolling, he's getting leaner and leaner. Okay, your high days are not yielding the same response. Let's jack the high days up. And then towards the end, it's like 520 grams of rice in a meal, like equivalent to carbs, to carb him up. And he would gain like 3 pounds, 4 pounds, and it would come down like that, you know? But it went really well. It was a very easy prep. I remember he told me, he's like, Chris, he's like, this prep felt like it was nothing, like compared to what we had to do in the past to get in shape. Because last time he got really, when he came to me, he was really chubby when we were getting ready for his warm-up show and then for USA's. He was like, I think close to 290.
Yeah, he said, he said he was pretty big.
225 for USA's. But the prep went great. I have no issues with it at all. You know, the only downfall, just like anything in any coach, is when you're used to seeing the set of pictures in the same spot or multiple spots, and then you see them in person, right? It's never going to match exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So when he came to me off the plane, you know, at first I'm like, geez, he doesn't look quite as hard as the pictures displaying. I'm like, did I need another 10 days or not? I'm like, he did get off the plane. So he was flying. He is flat. Let's just see what happens the next day. Because he stayed at my house for 5 days prior. Looked at him every day. He was getting better a little every day, but like still not the same hardness that I wanted to see. Right. So I was like, I gotta dig in my bag of tricks here. So like thinking about how he was responding with our mock carb ups the last few weeks, because he was ready a few weeks ago. Right. So I'm like, all right, so this is what we're going to do. We're still going to continue our plan. Because I'm looking at him like, A, it's either he's flat, the heart is not coming out, right? Or B, we need to use a mild diuretic this time, because last time we didn't really use any. And then it might be water. So did a high carb Wednesday, like where we normally plan to do. I looked at him Thursday morning. He got a little harder. Glutes were a little tighter. I'm like, okay, it's positive. So we did another carb up day, which we initially planned on we're going to do. And we're going to plan on doing high carb Wednesday, high carb Thursday, pull back the carbs on Friday to get the gut and the stomach to stay smaller and tighter, all the excess food. So I said to him, I go, dude, I want to do a trial. We're going to do like 1/3 of a Diazide Thursday night. and just to take a look at your look in the morning to see how much water comes off and to see if you get flat. So Friday morning, woke up, glutes are completely peeled, strided to the tight as can be, but everything else got flat.
Mhm.
So I'm like, this is not a glute show. As we know in open bodybuilding today, most open bodybuilders don't have shredded glutes, but they're blasting full, right?
Mhm.
I'm like, dude, we're not going to use a diuretic Friday night. We're just not. I don't think it's a good idea. Now that you are dry, I would assume even if we keep carbs a little higher than we initially planned on our lower day on Friday, we keep our water the same. I kept the water the same, 4.5 liters, 4.5 liters. I'm like, you're still going to be harder and fuller and drier Friday night than you were Thursday night.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up Saturday morning, and it was a pretty good look. And I'm like, dude, I like this look. We'll just do 2 solid meals beforehand. And it looked like he peaked perfectly for prejudging. It looked like everything came together when he came out and he's posing. He's popping like crazy. And I'm like, wow, that pump up worked. Everything worked. So when we got off stage, we're looking up there like, oh my God, like he looks like he's going to be in the top 5. We didn't expect that, right? It looks like he might be fighting for maybe even 3rd or 4th. We don't know. But I guess he was 4th leaving prejudging. And so I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, dude, you already are a pretty good condition compared to the other 2, 3rd and 4th, but you're not as big as they are. So we both made the call to come in fuller, which ended up being a mistake. And then he ended up slipping to 5th. We're still happy with our decisions because it was a logical decision, right? It's like,
that's all you can do. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not quite as conditioned. Let's push a little bit. And he ended up being on stage, I believe, around 245-ish at the night. And then during prejudging, it was around like 242, 241. So that little bit of water just kind of put him over. Not to mention, walking around all day long on your feet. A lot of that fluid goes to the legs, the lower body, the glutes.
Yeah.
But his feedback at night was very full, but he got a little softer. And then the other dude, I can't think of his name, Lewis, he got harder. So it kind of flip-flopped. But he's very happy. We're very ecstatic.
You look good. Yeah, you look great.
What does that look like in between? Sorry, did you want to ask something, Justin?
No.
I was going to comment about with the pictures versus in person. If I'm with a client in person for the peak, I still do photos. I mean, I'll look at them in person, but I don't trust my eye in person. I've been doing it for 20 years with photos. So,
dude.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I took a video. He's like, why are you taking a video? Because I need to look at the video later and compare them.
Yeah. You know what? And I have this, only a few people would understand this, but I have another example of where this happens somewhere else in the world. But echocardiograms, heart ultrasounds, when they first came out, the technology wasn't that great, so the computing power wasn't that great. So they would just send the sound waves and it bounced back. Well, it would come back as a mirror image of the heart. And so for 20 years, that's how doctors learned to read it, because you just learn to read what you're looking at. Well, then the computing power got good enough where the computer could analyze that and then reverse the mirror image and show the heart exactly how it is in the body. But the doctors couldn't read it because for 20 years they had been looking at a mirror image of the echocardiogram, and they know what everything looks like. They know when they put color on it, like what red means in this direction, that direction. And you're used to seeing it, and so when they looked at actually anatomically correct, they had never seen it that way in an ultrasound before. And I always say it's like that, even though yes, I know you look at yourself in person and you're used to that, and so the pictures seem harder to judge, but I see pictures all day, every day for 20 years. I don't see someone in person every day, all day. So yeah, I always even when I'm in person, I still take pictures, video.
Yeah. And then lighting can change. Like he was in my bathroom, right? And in the morning time yields the best light because it's still dark through the window.
Yeah.
And at night, the same thing. So all of a sudden, 10 a.m., you're like, did you get smoother? It's the light coming in, So I agree. I had to take a video each time. And
there's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of tricks like that. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but I noticed this one time years ago on email because the pictures would just kind of be a thumbnail at the bottom, until you enlarged them. And I realized, for whatever reason, with the thumbnail, because you see the whole body right there, I could really tell whether that person was adding size or not. And so now.
This episode is brought to you by First Detachment. First Detachment is an expert formulated supplement company founded by renowned coach Justin Harris. We've combined science with real-world experience in each product. We are battle-tested. Are you? Find your battle today at firstdetachment.com.
Like I've learned that if you want to gauge like size across an off season, compare thumbnail images from start of the off season to later. Because if they're all zoomed in, and anyone can do this, like you can take a picture of like Ronnie Coleman in 98 versus 96, and he was better in 98. But look at a high res large photo and compare where you're so zoomed in, you're like, is this lat bigger than that lat? I can't tell. And then if you pull it out to the thumbnail, it's like, oh yeah, that lat's obviously bigger. But when it's all zoomed in, it's kind of there's like lots of little tricks like that you learn over the years.
Yeah, that should be a book on how to assess pictures and how to take pictures, right?
Yeah.
There you go. You gotta get some ebooks on your site, Chris.
Yeah.
I'm so bad at that stuff. My wife's like, you gotta like I don't like doing content. Like the content I create, I don't like doing it.
Oh,
yeah.
And she's like, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I just like to be in my little world, in my little thing, and keep things simple. But you're right. There's so much information that could be easily displayed in an ebook or something that'd be very helpful for a lot of people.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's hard though. It's like because you have something you're passionate about. I want to be a really good nutritionist and coach. That's what I want to be, the best coach that I can possibly be. But to be the best financial coach, like you got to learn how to market. You got to put out content. It's like I don't want to do that. I just want to spend all my time getting better at coaching.
Well, you got some fun content though, right? I mean,
when Juji came, yeah.
I'm like, so you can always hit him up for. I think he's decent at it, right? Is he maybe okay at social media? Awesome. He might be okay at social media. Crazy. Yeah, I know. It's nuts. Yeah, I think Justin, you had him interviewed him a little while back, and
we had him on Goon Platoon. He's so high energy. He says he's not high energy though, which I just can't believe.
He's a great dude.
He was really nice. Yeah, he was a good interview.
Yeah, are you guys close by? Is that?
Oh no. He's in North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Did you coach him for a little while, or just?
No, I helped him through lab work. I helped him. He wanted to improve his lab work for some like life insurance stuff.
Got it.
And I helped him through that because I actually do a lot of that for people. I'm pretty good at manipulating labs through nutrition and fluid and whatnot to help people get, past their labs for whatever.
Life insurance is tough when you weigh a lot,
Oh, you always will lose that one.
That's
one tick mark you're never going to get.
But they really dock you for. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like everything, I had the hardest time even as an engineer because they would come in, you do like life insurance would be 8 years pay or whatever, and that would be like the upper limit. And I would apply for that, and to get that, someone has to come in. I'd get blood work. My blood work would be good, and then they have to do like a physical. Well, they'd measure me, and I'm like, like 5'10", 270, and you'll never pass. And I had one lady who was really cool, and she lied and said I was 6'1", and she dropped 25 pounds off. And I think I still had to go through like a second round of things to get approved.
Yeah, it depends on the insurance. That was a tough one. You will always get approved if your BMI is high. You just get a higher rate. You're gonna have to pay a lot more money.
Yeah, this is for to get it through work where they cover it. Yeah, where it was like almost zero premium.
Yeah, they look at renal function. They look at BMI, blood pressure, drug tests. Those are the biggies, and liver.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want to take anybody who's going to be on dialysis or who's going to have cirrhosis of the liver and then have them pass away.
That's hard too to get creatinine down when someone's carrying a lot of muscle.
Yeah, why don't they use cystatin C? I don't know.
Yeah.
So with going back to Jordan's prep, just a couple of follow-up questions too I wanted to hit. Did you coach him during his off season? Because I noticed in his off season he found some weight and stayed pretty tight.
I've been with him straight for 4 years now.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, was it because you mentioned before he came to you pretty heavy? Was there anything that jumped out at you maybe didn't jump out, but a little different in kind of how you worked with him from what he was doing before? Like,
okay, so like I'll just tell you my whole thought process from the very beginning and keep it very simple. So when he first came to me, he came from a very top tier coach, which we're not going to name him, but he wasn't giving him the attention he needed, and a lot of times that's what ends up happening, right? So I ended up helping him, and he was very, very heavy, obviously more heavy than I want. So, I don't remember exactly how long I do remember. We started 24 weeks out from USA's dieting, and it was 20 weeks out from his warm-up show or qualifying show. And I would say during that time, I was a little concerned because how heavy he was. And when you know somebody that heavy, who's like technically fat, you don't know how quickly they're going to respond. You don't know if there's going to be like a 5-week lag period where their body's just stale, their insulin sensitivity is shot. You don't know anything.
Mhm.
But he ended up responding very well. And I did remember that. I did have to push him pretty hard because we couldn't average just 1.5 pounds per week, right? At that point, we had to speed it up. So obviously we did hit a couple sticking points, but we bursted through them, did the typical refeeds. He was doing more cardio then. His calories were lower overall. So this time around in prep, we did start at 20 weeks again. And I said to him, I go, dude, the plan, don't be intimidated by 20 weeks, but I need you relatively lean at 12 weeks out. Like,
Right.
I want you relatively lean at 12 weeks out. I want fatigue low, and I want cardio almost non-existent. So you're fresh, right? So like when you're ramping up androgens, and now I can bring food back, and then you can kind of cruise through all prep and it be very not as painstaking. And he really didn't lose he didn't get flat ever, bad flat. He obviously normal flat. Training performance was held almost the whole entire time. He lost a little pressing strength, a little leg strength. Fatigue was managed. His sleep never broke down once.
Oh, wow.
Soundly through the entire prep. When he came to my house, he's like, dude, I thought sleep was good when at home. He goes, I slept for like 9 hours straight. I feel great.
Wow.
So that's another thing. When sleep is really well, your body burns fat better as well. But recovery's better. But I knew that going in that he is going to burn fat relatively quicker. Now, as far as body fat percentage for Jordan, his set point is definitely higher than your average open bodybuilder. He's definitely not like a Lee Priest, but like he's definitely puts a little more body fat on than a lot of people might be like, oh, that's a little too much body fat. That's where he needs to be for him to grow. Because I'm not going to sit there battle the whole entire offseason keeping him lean if it's keeping his calories too low and he can't progress in the gym. So I really just kept the calories to a point where we're really supporting training performance, and some body fat accumulated, and that's fine. And obviously it worked out fine. This time around, hopefully we might be able to keep even a little bit leaner than he was the year before, which would be great. But again, I'm not worried if he gets a little heavier like he did,
Yeah. No, that makes sense. No, and I'm curious about the sleep and, fatigued and things. I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. Are there any practices you use relative to, fat burners or things like that to help offset that?
Yeah. Trenbolone, I keep dangerously low, where people would be like, oh, you're lying. As soon as you use Tren and sleep deteriorates, we're going backwards.
Man, I was around when it was prevalent. Yeah, prevalent back in the late 90s, before there was Tren, when it was just like from France. 150 milligrams a week was that was because no one even used it and no one could get it. But if you could, the pros were using 150 a week. That's what the real stuff. That's what people used. And when I see the doses of that stuff now, it just blows my mind. Because I remember
migs a week.
Oh my God. I remember people debating because it was 76 milligram ampules. And I remember hearing some guy at the gym got some, and I was like, I think he's going to try to do 2 in a week,
Now it's in a day.
Oh yeah. It's wild.
But no, I told him that, and I tell all of my clients that, and that's one new practice I've utilized the last 2 years is really protecting sleep the best I can possible. And one thing I always tell them, I go, dude, if you're using pre-workouts and your sleep is fine. If your sleep is teetering, I'm pulling your pre-workouts. I don't give a crap. You can tough out the first 10 minutes and break into your training, because let's be honest, a lot of people want to go into the gym feeling like an animal. Well,
right.
It's okay to feel like shit the first 10 minutes and then warm up and you feel fine.
Right.
I limit their caffeine usually to 500 milligrams or less before 1 p.m. I definitely am not a huge advocate of a trend pusher at all. I like to keep that very, very low as possible, or until that threshold where there's side effects that are prevalent, right?
Yeah.
Clen, I keep it very low. T3, I barely ever use. And ultimately, sometimes I'll position a lot of carbohydrates around bedtime to help them relax and sleep.
Mhm.
Because, you know what's funny is like we're always like, we can't eat carbs before bed. However, think about this, right? It's like you get up in the morning and you're busy during the day, and you're actually eating more food when you're busy. Well, mentally, with the end of the day, when you're home in your own thoughts, fatigue setting in, hunger is in, and you're trying to sleep, then you're going to ruin your sleep, drive up more fatigue. Then you're going to move less. Then you're going to expend less calories. Then it's just going to be this cycle disaster of shit. So, positioning more carbs around bedtime to help them relax, calm down, sleep. And then I stress to them, stop looking at your fucking phone when you're at night in bed.
Right, yeah.
It's like, for the love of God, flip. You're never going to sleep. Put your phone away. Watch TV in a dim lit room. That's fine.
Have a routine too. If you have a routine, like every night, your body just learns it. Like, I'm going to sleep. When you learn a routine, your body just knows it's going to sleep. It's like, that's the biggest thing.
And that was the last thing I was going to touch on was routine. I go to sleep at the same time, get up at the same time. I go, it's just prep. Tell your wife it's for 12 weeks, and then you'll be done, and then you can go back to having a little more wiggle room. And then, of course, sleep supplements. I got this from John Jewett. 5-HTP, melatonin, magnesium, and why can't I think of the last one?
Do you use theanine at all?
GABA.
Okay.
But low dose, 2.5 milligrams melatonin, 100 milligrams 5-HTP, 400 milligrams magnesium, and 250 milligrams of GABA. Mm-hmm. It's just a little, just to put you in that mode, not to give you any type of super drowsiness,
Yeah. No, that's helpful, I think, for a lot of people listening too. And it's interesting to walk through that, because a couple of things you said, like, I know just through everyday life, I know if I have some stressful days or I didn't sleep for a day or two, because just being too amped up at night, wherever the case is, I'll actually hold my carbs throughout the day. Because if I look at if I can easily overeat. I have large person genetics, so I have to keep it in check all the time. But I'd have my higher carb meal, or even like a 30 or 40 sugary carbs with like a higher carb, just kind of get the little bit of that spike and then that full feeling, just to help me sleep. Because it's a big difference. If I could do that.
And something to add to that too, what people listening is, you can go overboard. If you eat too big a meal, that can trash your sleep too.
That's a good point. Yeah,
right. So it's like, it's in context here of how you're using it. But don't think it's a black and white, like, largest meal of the day at night. Then
here we go.
At least 10% of the people listening, that's what they heard when you said that.
Yeah.
It's almost said, pound all your carbs right before bed.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this: the worst thing was, like, I was listening to Joe Rogan a couple years ago, right? And it just hit me. He's talking about how I was on and off Ambien for a lot of my life, from like early 20s, probably about 10 years, right? And he was just talking about how people freak out over like gummies or like a THC type thing. And I was never big into smoking weed or whatever. And if people are, that's fine. I don't care. But he'd get a comparison of the two, and just how, like, just, violently nasty Ambien could be on your body versus like a small gummy, like a half or a quarter of a gummy or something. And so my point of bringing that up is, so I did switch. I was able to get off it, and I was using, a CBD and THC gummy. But then the problem was, if I forgot that I took it and I go to grab a snack, like, it's game over. Because it's like, I naturally, as being a bigger guy, already have the munchies naturally. So you sprinkle that in.
You have to eat beforehand.
Yes.
And then do it.
And then go upstairs. Do not go back downstairs, no matter how high you are. Don't go down.
That's only if you want to look good. If you want to feel good,
well,
that dopamine release.
Yeah, that's why all my Instagrams are just this. This is what you guys see. So, but no, that's cool.
What's funny, like, Justin, I know we were embrace this back in the day. It's like, embrace the suck. The worse you feel, the better you're gonna look. And I remember all those nights years ago of like 3 hours a night of sleep, all through preparation, and just slamming ephedrine, ECA stack, and whatever, burn more fat. And here I am doing all these fat burning drugs, all this cardio and low calories, and I still didn't get as shredded as the last time I did a prep, and I did like no cardio. I didn't do any of that, and I slept through the night.
Yeah, I was gonna butt in earlier when you were talking about like a schedule and stuff, you know, like you were saying with Jordan, and I can't stress like that's so important, and because it's hard with because a lot of bodybuilders, especially if they're professional and they don't have a day job and they don't have a set schedule, it just gets so wonky, and they're up till 3 a.m. one night, then midnight the next, and that's just terrible. I think part of the reason I stayed in a day job for so long was because I knew how much looser everything was on the weekend when I didn't have that tight schedule, and how crisp my life was during the week when everything was on a schedule. I woke up at a certain time, you know, went to work at a certain time, ate at a certain time. And so I mean, like that, I think that's a big thing with like the pros who have an open schedule is because you, like you just said, when you're like up all night and then you're up early and your sleep is terrible and your body's just not running properly.
Once everything falls apart.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Then their even in the off season, if your sleep is all over the place, your appetite's crap.
Yep.
You're eating on a schedule. It's like, oh my God, why can't I think of his name? I don't even want to mention it because I'm embarrassed I don't remember his name. And I'm bad with names.
So am I.
From
It's
UK, the giant.
James or JP?
No.
James, how about
No, not James. He was like on stage like 300 pounds. I had him on my damn podcast.
It's gonna kill me.
Yeah, it's killing me. I'm embarrassed. I follow him. Anyway, Milos trained him. And
Not Martin Ford?
no.
Samson?
No.
Sorry.
He was eating like 2,000 carbs a day, 3,000 carbs a day. And I already knew the answer to this, but I wanted to ask him. I go, how do you get that food in a day? And he goes, one key thing. I get up at the same time every day and I start my meal at that time every day. Because if I start my meal at 6 a.m., I'm on point. But if I sleep into 8, my first meal's at 8:30, he goes, it's a wash.
Yeah.
Because then you're trying to squish the meals in together as the day goes on, then your appetite just goes scratches out.
Yeah, no, it's I guess it's speaking of that too, because we've, you know, talked to different coaches and things on the channel here. Are there any consistent, you know, tips or little things that you have your athletes do to help get in more food throughout the day, or any ways to maybe favorite dishes or things of that nature?
The biggest obstacle I see with the most people that I work with, obviously I'm not going to speak for everybody, but people fall into the convenience route, right? It's convenient, it's quick. Well, convenient and quick comes with a cost, right? And that cost becomes repetition, lack of variety. You lose interest in your food. Not to mention eating a diet that lacks variety eventually is going to starve your gut microbiome.
Yeah.
Eventually you're going to develop digestive issues, and then you're going to be a damn mess. So I tell my clients, like, listen, man, I'm not asking you to be Chef Ramsay here, all right? But like, you got to put more effort into your food. You have to. Start the rice cooker every day. Have fresh rice every day. Get up in the morning, pre-prep it the night before, push start. By the time you take a shower, everything, it's done. Scoop fresh rice out. Maybe sprinkle some fresh cilantro on there. Maybe get some infused lime olive oil and add lime olive oil to it. So you have cilantro lime rice. Like, these are small, simple things you could do to increase your taste acuity and excitement for your food. So like, you got to put effort into it. And unfortunately, a lot of bodybuilders are lazy when it comes to
yeah.
You know? And like, I'm a dietitian, you know, you love nutrition. So it's like, I put effort into my food every day, all day. I love it. And even I'm not bodybuilding anymore, I still do it. I love food. I want variety. I understand it. People need to get into it more. It's funny. It's like they're willing to take any drug. They're willing to train hard in the gym, but they're not willing just to put in an extra 25, 30 minutes a day, making food more palatable.
Yeah.
Ultimately, where they can grow more and digest and simulate food better.
And then, well, the frustrating thing is because guys always say, I'll force feed. I'll get it down. I don't care. I don't eat for taste. It's like, you'll force feed a meal. Yeah. You might force feed a day or a week. You're not going to force feed for 15 years. No one will, because every single meal you force down, you're even less hungry for the next meal.
Right. And those are the same guys on the weekend. They're like, oh, bro, I totally blew it on Saturday. I ended up doing this and eating that. And I just needed a break, dude. I just needed a reset.
Reset.
And I'm like, I never needed a reset before.
Yeah. Well, food's weird because you can, like with a few simple things, it's just being prepared, because you can build an appetite to almost arbitrary levels. You know how hungry you are after a diet. What's everyone want to do? They want to pig out and satisfy that and get rid of that hunger, which of course that's what you want to do. But if you just stay like after the show, if you keep food clean and you keep calories very high, but just under their appetite, where their appetite's sky high, so your calories can still be really high, but you just keep it a little bit less than they want to eat, and you can almost extend that the entire off season. It takes months before they finally get saturated, and at the end,
100%.
at the end, they're
tell
eating.
my guys that all the time.
Yeah.
Your hunger ain't real.
Yeah.
I love this. Bro, my metabolism's ripping. I go, why do you say that? Bro, I'm hungry all the time. I'm like, dude, you gained 15 pounds in a week.
Mm-hmm.
Metabolism's not ripping. Okay.
Yeah.
Just calm down. Your body's like in this mode of like dopamine release. That feels good. Let's eat.
Yeah.
And insulin's present. Feed the insulin. Your body's telling you to eat. It's lying to you.
Yeah.
I see the same thing. I had the conversation with Jordan today on the phone about our plan coming out in the next 8 weeks and what that looks like, because everybody goes, rebound, let's go. No. We're going to set you up. So instead of having an awesome 8-week rebound, you're going to have a 6-month awesome off season, 8 weeks post show.
Yeah. If you do it properly, 6 months later, they're still hungry for all their meals and their food is sky high.
And their
metabolism actually will be ripping then.
Yeah. And they're not fat.
Yep.
Do you kind of do similar like rotations on different days based on training, et cetera, with like their total caloric intake, or just curious your high level kind of approach?
It varies for everybody. Like, for example, when I get somebody out of a show, they're on the same calories every day because I want them to prevent binge eating. I will start them out of the gate really high.
Yeah.
Because I don't want them to be like, oh, dude, I ate a bunch of ice cream. Shit. Well, now they ate 7,000 calories in one sitting of this garbage. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start them real aggressive and have a lot of variety. And they're like, oh, dude, this is so exciting. I can have dates. Like we get all excited about like random stuff.
Yeah. Grapes in my oatmeal?
Yeah. Oatmeal? Yeah, I get some waffles. I'm like, yeah man, just those waffles, So I keep it high every day until they start their relationship with food starts to reestablish. They start to become less food focused. Then I'll vary their calories on a training day and a non-training day. But sometimes I also have lower high days in the off season to help keep that appetite up.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's on a training day, I don't care. They might be like, well, bro, aren't I supposed to gain muscle? I'm like, dude, one day of being near maintenance calories on a training day is not going to prevent you from getting muscle. All right. It's just going to help your liver recuperate from just smashing it with so much food all the time.
Well, what's funny is everyone thinks they need to like eat 8,000 calories above their BMR to gain any muscle. But then those same people in prep, like, dude, bro, I think I'm growing into the show. It's like, aren't you the same person who insisted that if we didn't put 10,000 calories down you, it would be impossible to add muscle? But now you're sure you're adding muscle on 3,000 calories.
It's funny. Now they're all insulin sensitive, so they get that more response to the food. So they get that.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you could sport that the entire year if you weren't so scale focused.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Scale's terrible because 70% of our body is water. Like for bodybuilders, 10% is fat. So the scale is measuring water. That's it. I always say it's like it'll be like using if we weighed our car every morning to see how much gas was in it. It's like it weighs less, but if we got 8 passengers in the car, we can't tell how much gas is in it. So it's same as if you want to weigh more, let's just sodium load for 2 days. Boom, you gain 15 pounds. Look, what a great off season.
Yeah,
body comp didn't change at all, but
100%. So my philosophy generally is it's very individual. Low days, high days I use in prep, but high days in prep are more like as they need them. Low and high days, some of those cycle in the off season to keep their appetite going. Sometimes I just keep the calories relatively linear, where their calories might vary on the lower on the non-training day versus an off day, which that would be their set low day. But that's only 2 days a week. And post show will always be a consistent amount of calories daily until their food focus decreases. In training, as far as like carbohydrate positioning, I've become more of an advocate of centering more food around problems to how do I say this? Putting food around problems, meaning their training starts to break down. Well, I'm going to maybe start moving some food around training to see if that benefits them. Oh, dude, I felt so great today. Great. I'm going to keep my carbs pre, intra, post, a little bit less later on. Oh, dude, my sleep is terrible. I'm wide awake. I'm starving. Well, maybe I'm going to move for some of that food to that to put out that fire, right? So it ends up being a more individualistic in that. I don't keep carbs equally in every single meal during a diet.
Mhm.
I do believe that a lot of people's like hunger signals that vary from the day to day. Like, dude, I'm not hungry at all for the first 2 meals, and then I'm starving the rest of the day. Well, dude, I'm gonna move it then. Or
Right.
they're like, oh man, I'm a sales guy walking all day long, and then I train at the end of the day. Well, sure, shit, not gonna have carbs in meals 1, 2, and 3, right? I might keep them a little bit lower and backload them at the end of the day. So I try to position around whatever problem I have to fix.
Got it. No, it makes a lot of sense. I'm sure that's helpful for a lot of people, and take time to think of that. And I really like the couple ways to frame the questions, like you're saying, for people to respond about fatigue and sleep and activity versus like the ego kicking in, like, I got it, coach, I'm good. It's like,
yeah, too bad they couldn't use that ego to make their meals, right?
Right.
Like, you make variety of meals, be on time, be planned, have a set schedule, be beast mode when it comes to your sleep schedule, your grocery list, cooking good variety of food, and being consistent with that.
Yeah,
That's where beast mode to come out.
Bodybuilders are wild with that stuff because so self-motivated for some things and so not self-motivated. It's like they'll starve themselves near to death, do 2 hours of cardio a day, train no matter what, but like a lot of them will struggle to keep a job or won't meal prep, or it's like, I don't like the discrepancy here. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's
or getting lab work or getting lab work.
Yeah. It's like you're up at 4 a.m. doing cardio without even thinking of, like no debate, but you won't prepare your meals ahead of time, or you won't get blood work, or it's weird how it works.
It is. But unfortunately, I think there's so many more of us, I believe, we're all on the same page, essentially. Like, I've been on a lot of podcasts, Justin. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of eye to eye and a lot of things that we've been talking about. And
actually pretty remarkable, because it's like even like I do the same thing after a show. Calories are really high, consistent. I don't cycle them right away because until they get past the food focus part. I always say, because if we don't, either we do it now or you're going to binge. I hate the people that reverse diet right out of the show, and it's like they add 200 calories to what they were at 2 weeks out. So no one's following that. No, they might tell you they are, but they're not.
Quite a few people that do that.
Yeah, no, I see a lot. Yeah, a lot of clients, coach, we're not going to reverse diet. I'm like, no, because you're not going to reverse diet. I can tell you to do that, but
like, this is the reverse diet. This is it right now.
Yeah, if we don't get ahead of your raging hunger hormones, we can't start the proper off season until we get there. So the sooner we get there, the better.
100%. But I've been in a lot of podcasts too. Like, I start talking about my approach on things, and there's a lot more eye to eye than I thought. Like, oh shit, you found that too. Oh shit, you're doing the same thing. That's great. And it's not like we were talked before, but we found that same sort of pattern and used that solution to fix those problems.
Yeah, well, one of my pet peeves is when people talk about evidence-based. Everyone says they do evidence-based research, and I'm like, you're not doing real. Like, you don't have a control group, or we're all like doing. If evidence-based means I notice when my client does this, and then this happens, then that's how everyone lives their life. But
this is all anecdotal.
Yeah, but that is kind of, it makes sense that a lot of us would fall into the same thing, because if you understand how the human body works, you'll understand that there's certain things that you would expect will work, and then over time you find out which ones actually do, and so it makes sense why a lot of us would fall into similar approaches.
Justin, we've done hundreds of anecdotal studies.
Evidence-based research.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the last things, I know we coming up on time a little bit, and I appreciate you jumping on here. But one of the things I was going to ask you about was, you have like a hydration drink you formulated. Is that?
Yeah. So more. So everybody's familiar with Mio, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
So it's like I had so many problems with people drinking enough water, mainly my general population clients, right? And some of them also have issues with like adding salt to food. They don't like salt, you know?
It blows my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, man, like it'd be nice to come up with a different flavor enhancer that ended up a water enhancer that had a little bit of mineral component where people can add to their drink and they can incentivize the hydration in a day. And that's really kind of like the key thing is like, we're not a sports drink. We're not a hydration aimed towards a small niche group where you're trying to rehydrate after an ultra marathon. This is solely to put in your water to add flavor to incentivize overall hydration in a day. But it's not going to, it contains the right amount of sodium, potassium, magnesium where you're not going to over consume it. Like you can't drink 128 ounces of Gatorade in a day, right?
Right.
It's just, that's way too much sodium, potassium. So this will deliver just a little bit to help you stay hydrated, help give some obviously electrolyte balance, etc. And it tastes great. And one thing we tried so hard, it took so long, almost 355 days to nail down the flavor, that everybody preferred this over Mio, the lemonade and the sweet tea. And we got two new flavors coming out, mango peach and blue raz. So that's been a little project that my partner and I, we've been working on, but bring things to market, it's not an easy task. Let me tell you, holy smokes.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
It looks easy on paper, man, but when you start doing it, you're just like, nobody does what they say they're going to do.
Nope.
They never meet the deadline.
Nope.
Supply chain stuff.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
Find suppliers, find manufacturer, get in a warehouse.
Oh yeah.
Who's handling distribution, fulfillment? Where's money coming from?
Yep.
Who's dealing with shipping? Are you getting the best shipping rates?
Nope. We're going to start shipping in house now because our 3PL was just, not. It's costing too much.
No, we're in supply manufacturing hell ourselves right now with the supplement company. So
it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wild. And then also, especially if you're not like supplying enough, you're not purchasing enough. They're like, you're just not worth for us capping on. You're going to have to find another.
And your manufacturing costs are inversely proportional to your product volume. So when you're starting out and you need the best prices, you get the worst prices, and you get no priority, and you get lied to. And
that's what we had to talk to two different reps, but one in particular at a company. I was just like, we have a great strategy. I'm like, we are literally using a fifth of like our way to get education out there and blah, 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 because we keep selling out because you keep missing deadlines. I'm like, please just help us and we'll be one of the big guys.
People
with you.
lie about
like, just give me. And that was the other one I talked to. Said, I don't care. No news is the worst news. Just give me, if it's bad news and it's going to take an extra 4 weeks, let me know. So we don't do a pre-sale. Then people are like, where's my stuff? Or whatever, how it is.
And it never ends. Marketing strategy, how much are you spending on marketing, or hiring a marketing team, who's doing your videos, or you got a copywriter, it's like, and then every time your revenue increases, it just goes right into another employee that sucks it all up. But they bring in new revenue that you get to throw into another employee. And like with a supplement company, we're 2 years in and still neither of us taking a penny of salary. We still zero income. No, and probably another year before we'll get there, and it's like, and it's worse than that because you throw all your personal wealth into it. You like being a business owner, people like when you're a successful business owner, everyone hates you, because must be nice. Oh, like it's like, you have no idea. Like you risk it all the time. It's not like once, like, like I'm going to risk my retirement savings on this. It's like, you risk it all the time, over and over, and every time you get a new breakthrough. If you're going to go big, you got to risk it all again on the next level. But
I know the people that, and there's those people that think that the business owner who's doing well, he should make that much money. He should share what he's making with us. Well, he's taking all the damn risk.
Right.
And then people don't understand the risk because you have a job, you risk, you get fired, you just go to Indeed and find another job. Like if your business fails, you're done. You're at zero. No retirement. No,
debt.
Yeah, and you're bankrupt. Yeah, you lose the house. It's scary. And then when it pays off big. Much bigger than a job would pay off, but the risk, and it's so delayed, it's, you risk everything for nothing for years. you know. So.
I was just going to make one more comment. I didn't realize that when I was looking at it before we started the show too, that it's like, can be used for general population. I think that's a really cool application because literally I was just talking to two people I know, they don't exercise, just your average, general population people. And they started getting migraines. And, I'm no expert in this area, kind of like, I read a headline of a study. No, I mean, about this specific topic, but I just mentioned like, hey, something you might want to look into is like the combination of hydration, but that's not, I drink a lot of water. It's like, it's not just water. Like look at all your electrolytes and kind of briefly, point them in the direction of people that actually research in that area to like, just, check this out. It might help you. And each time it was just, the electrolyte balance was just so far off too. I'm not a doctor as far as the point is that the cause of that, but it seemed to, from, anecdotal, what they were saying, just, helped relieve it or make it less intense for them when they had it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people get that.
One downfall too is that there's a lot of products in the market now that are aimed for hydration, but aimed for hydration for specific time periods, not to be consumed all day long.
Generally,
So
yeah.
I've seen general population people that don't exercise consuming hydration beverages that have 500 milligrams of sodium in like 10 ounces. That's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially if they're overweight. So like, oh, it tastes good. It's hydration. I'm like, you don't know what that product is supposed to be intended to be used for, but you're using it. And that's one of the other main motivations in this.
Yeah.
And the trend is because no one knows anything. If you're a hydration drink and the first hydration drink comes out and advertises that they have electrolytes in it. Well, what does the next hydration brand come out and do? Add more electrolytes, because then they advertise, and the public doesn't know. And so, like you said, now you get products that have 500 milligrams of sodium, and it's per 12 ounces. It's like that. Yeah. That's almost salt water at that point. You add any more, your kidneys aren't going to filter it. But yeah, it's I like that product. Actually, I texted Joe right when he said it. I was like, man, that's ingenious. That's a brilliant idea.
Yeah, just a little bit, and it was a challenge because it's a concentrate. So a concentrate can only handle a certain amount of solute, right, before it cracks. Yeah. So like we had to play around with different parts of that. And I wanted to add other things like calcium and other things in there, but they couldn't do it. So
yeah, calcium would be tough, yeah. And
sodium, potassium, magnesium.
Those are the main ones.
Yeah, 100%.
Good stuff.
And it's amazing how many problems are solved with sodium, potassium, magnesium. Yeah. Like so many layperson problems, especially females. It seems like it's like they think you're a magician. You add a little salt and then take 400 milligrams of magnesium before bed, and like 2 days later, like, I don't know what you did, but I have more energy. I feel better. It's like, yeah,
it's crazy.
You're getting a gram of sodium a day and drinking 2 gallons of water. I'm amazed that you're gonna have more problems.
Well, it's like, speaking of poor information, like, the ADA, as much as I'm a dietitian, I'm supposed to be saying this, it's like the ADA is like, American Heart Association is like 2 grams of sodium a day is what we should shoot for. It's like, first off, when I worked at the hospital, we would give renal patients 1,500 milligrams or 2,000 milligrams sodium a day. It would be a 2 gram potassium, 2 gram sodium, and 500 milligrams of phosphorus, I believe. And they would hate their diet.
Yeah.
This is disgusting. I can't taste anything. 2 grams a day?
Yeah.
That's so low.
And what doesn't make, your body has, aldosterone, vasopressin. It has methods of readjusting to almost any level anyways. So if you were doing 4 grams a day and you dropped to 2 grams a day, yeah, you'll flush some water initially, but your body maintains your blood sodium at 0.9% no matter what, no matter how much sodium you take in. And so if you just take in less, it just readjusts itself to get back, how much it flushes out. It just changes aldosterone. So yeah, your blood pressure will lower initially, but you can find some studies that even show it. And they'll be, like, I remember reading one that was almost like perplexed, like why the improvement in blood pressure didn't seem to be chronic after lowering sodium. It's like they lower sodium and they get an improvement in blood pressure. And then by, 3 weeks in, 4 weeks in, the blood pressure starts creeping up again. It's like, yeah, they've now adjusted back to baseline, and now they're just not flushing out any sodium. So, now 2 grams isn't low sodium. Now it's their normal sodium now.
Well, look at all the blood pressure medications today versus 20 years ago. It's like they used to be all diuretics, and now they're all like ACE inhibitors. And
the diuretics like a third line approach. They'll do ARB or ACE inhibitor, then they'll do a calcium channel blocker, then maybe a diuretic. And even then, a lot of times they'll do a beta blocker before a diuretic.
Yeah.
Well, are you Chris, just you and your wife? How are you guys with clients right now? Is the site open? You know, are you still taking on clients? You have wait
Oh,
list? How's that work?
ooh. I don't know if my wife is or not. I don't. I'm not.
Gotcha.
I still have people message me all the time, and I said maybe in March you can reach out. I don't know. And sometimes if they
Yeah.
do, and I have people stop competing, then sure. But I'm trying to decrease my client load right
Mhm.
now. It's just gotten to the point where like it's just too much. You know, it's too many hours in a day. I'm
I don't
working 6 days a week.
I don't think people realize. I don't think people. There's zero break. You know, you don't
Zero.
because your clients check in no matter what. So
Yeah.
you don't get to go on vacation. Those clients still check in, and people compete, and they don't realize like they do that one show. You have multiple people every Saturday that you're up at 4 a.m. that you're checking 1 a.m. panic texts, that you're checking 3 a.m. panic texts, that you're doing photo check-ins at 5 a.m. every weekend. From April to November.
Yeah.
And it's and then now the UK is on Sunday. National shows start on Thursday. So through the summer, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And if you got a guy in the UK competing Sunday, that's like 4 days where you're doing 1 a.m. checks, 3 a.m. checks, 5 a.m. checks. You don't sleep. They're panic texting you, and it's and your normal check-ins. No matter, like it always just kills me where like a client will send a check-in, I don't know, like a Thursday at like 5 p.m. And you're never caught up because you're answering emails, but they're always coming in. And so maybe you stopped working at 8, but you only got caught up to 4 p.m. emails. So you just missed this guy's email, And then the next day you have some event, like a school event for your kids or something. So you get up and you drive somewhere, you're there for 8 hours, you drive back, you got to socialize with friends and family, and it's 1 a.m. and you crash and you go to bed and you wake up in the morning, 6 a.m. and the first thing you do is go answer that email. And so from your mind, like you're exhausted and you've done nothing. You're short on sleep and you've worked every waking second. From their mind, it's like, hey, dude, it's Sunday morning. I emailed you Thursday. It's like
It's too much. Case in point, I just went to Greece for 10 days with my wife, right?
Mm.
With vacation. I had 5 people competing.
Yeah.
I'm still answering emails every day in Greece.
Yep.
My competitors only, my general population can wait, but like I was still answering them. And my guy was doing USAs, and he did well. So it's like I was constantly 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning up. And that's just how it is. Like, it is like, I love helping him. He was a great dude. Mike's awesome. Nothing against him at all. But like in the grand scheme of the volume, I want to scale it back. I'm ready to scale it back and just be a little more,
Gotcha. Well, we might have been a little bit of a downer for all the guests there, but then we'll have to keep pressuring you to maybe write some ebooks or create some other content for them.
I have a posing module coming out.
Yeah.
I created I did 4.5 hours of posing.
Okay.
Basically broke down every basic pose. This is for like people who are getting into the industry, classic and bodybuilding, and they want to understand what a quarter turn is, how to put your feet, all the different tips, and really breaks it down to different body types too, because everybody can't pose the same. But it's real basic, good 101 stuff to give you full breakdown of the quarter turn, some classic poses, all the mandatories. But I break it down in extensive detail. That should be
cool.
Probably the end of September.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we'll definitely put a link in the show notes and stuff. And if when you get it ready to launch, if you want to drop us a message, we can post it out there for people. I'm sure people are going to ask us, where it is or whatever the situation is. So, well, good stuff, man. I know it was, we were communicating before the trip, and I'm sure when you came back, you had a lot of other stuff you could be doing right now. So it means a lot that you jumped on with us. So
no problem. My pleasure. This stuff's fun. This is a good break from all that.
There you go. All right. Well, for everybody out there listening in, we'll have all the places you can find Chris in the show notes. And don't forget to, not only on YouTube, but we're also on all the audio platforms as well. So wherever you can find an audio podcast, you can find 1D Talks. So thanks so much for tuning in and supporting the show. As always, thank you to my co-host, Justin Harris. Thanks again, Chris, for all your knowledge. We'll see you guys. Have a good night.
I appreciate it.